Welcome to TBCN Unplugged. My name is John, and I am here with JJ, Jeremiah Johnson.
Just like the movie, and no, never was a bullfrog.
He beat me to it. I was going to say that.
Yeah.
I've known you literally for, 22 years, something like that? Does that sound?
Yes, right close to 22 years.
Okay, so we worked together at Access Pinellas. If you've watched a lot of our other shows, you know a lot of the stuff we inevitably talk about is public access, which TBCN is a public access station, the last public access station in Florida. And we worked at Access Pinellas, which was in Clearwater, Pinellas County, Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, back in the day.
Well, and I'm sure we'll get into a lot about that,
yeah,
but
yeah.
there's a lot there.
Yeah, so let's go all the way back when you were a kid, all right? How did you get into video production? Because I really didn't get into video until I was in my late 20s.
Okay. So growing up, my dad worked for Radio Shack. And we actually moved, I was born here in Tampa, but we moved to Raleigh because my dad was offered the position of general manager, store manager, whatever you want to call it, of a Radio Shack computer center. Very, very early on, my dad had technology in front of me. I had computers from Tandy's and Texas Instruments that were mine in my room when I was 3 to 5 years old, somewhere in there. And one of the things that my dad had access to video cameras and VCRs. So right from the start, my dad said, let's see what he can do. So he let me hold the VCR on one shoulder, hold the camera on the other shoulder. Everybody's freaking out because this is heavy equipment, and he's going to break it. And he's
now,
like,
when was this? I'm trying to do the math here. 80s, 90s?
Yeah,
80s.
this was 1980, 81.
Okay.
So I'm playing with these things, and I'm already starting to learn about camera lenses. I'm learning about zoom. I'm learning about focus. I'm learning about white balance. And I'm learning about play record.
And you're how old?
I'm 3 years old.
Oh, Jesus.
So
now, I don't know if I knew this.
Yeah. So in middle school, I was a terrible, terrible student my entire life. I had bad dyslexia. I had bad ADHD, and I really didn't do well in school at all. So in middle school, I was really struggling, and I was having a hard time. And my science teacher in the 6th grade, he kind of saw something in me and understood that I knew more about technology than most of my peers. So that teacher, his name was George Lindsay, and he said, I do a public access program, and I think it would be cool if you came and joined the program. And at the time, I was like one of the only 6th graders. Already, I knew all the technology, so I started to learn how to edit.
Okay.
And I started to learn how to write stories. And I started to learn and understand that all of television was just storytelling, and all storytelling was a lot of writing. And at the time, that was something I absolutely hated to do. So through the Access program, it was actually called News Scan, I became a better student, and I became inspired to learn more.
Where was Access located back then?
The actual location was on Alderman and 19, and we would go to the studio up there. And to my knowledge, it all still exists. The building's still there. It's right underneath the radio antenna that you can see on Alderman and 19. But we would go into that studio, and I learned how to direct, technical direct, floor direct, every aspect of production, audio engineer, starting in the 6th grade, and stuck with it. And then I got to Countryside High School. The year before I came into the program, they actually won a national award for the best television program for high school. So Carl Zimmerman really had a program set up. I knew going in that this was likely what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. So we were able to take advantage of my skill set and the laissez-faire kind of approach that Carl Zimmerman had to let my skills kind of just develop. Mm-hmm. And we came in with a very good core of students that had also been at Sage Harbor Middle School with me and doing public access programming. So we already knew each other. We knew each other's strengths. We knew what we were capable of.
Well, here's the look of our studio from the control room, and we got a couple people that want to say some things. Wayne, you run VCR. What exactly is your responsibilities at this position?
Well, I queue up the tapes, and I pick out the videos and play them.
All right, so this is the guy you have to talk to if you have any video requests. This here is the man that has all the credits and stuff that is like multi-timed. This is Brian Maddox at the switcher. Brian, you have a few words for us?
Not today, thanks.
All right, back to you guys.
Truthfully, when I was doing all of that, I wanted to be in front of camera.
Yeah, that's right.
So that was my big goal. Yeah. So that was my big goal. Is I really wanted to be a reporter, and that was the career path that I set out for me. So my junior year at Countryside High School, a program starts to be talked about. We came up with a program with all the area high schools to be able to put on Channel 10. All the production was done by students.
They don't do stuff like that anymore, do they?
Absolutely. Well, no. I don't know. We were on Channel 10, and the show was called 10 Ultimate. And it was on for the 2 years that I was in high school, and I was one of the main forces behind the show. I shot, I edited, I hosted, I reported. I did a lot of different things on broadcast television before I was 17, 18
Editing,
years old.
Entry in, entry out.
We are dinosaurs, John, yes. Truthfully, even though we have nonlinear editing today, I'm still a firm believer in the three-point edit. And I teach people that are beginning editors on a nonlinear system to three-point edit.
Do you really?
I really do.
Yeah.
It's fundamental. To me, I think that if you understand that, you can sit down at any nonlinear system and be able to edit. If you don't understand that and the editing software uses nodes as opposed to a sequence or a timeline, things can get a little tricky. Where if you understand start, stop, start here or end here, everything will make sense from there.
And when I went to college, that's how I learned. And it took me a while to actually grasp onto nonlinear editing, but I did eventually, and with your help, I should say. But we'll get to that later.
It's a process for everyone.
Yeah.
And in high school, it was kind of coming into the age of that. New tech with the video toaster was kind of like leading that with Lightwave and things like that. And we were doing some pretty cool stuff, A/B edit, roll edits. We were editing basically online in our studio at the high school. And then at Catcom, we would go and online edit the thing and put together 10 Ultimate. And then it went on, to further answer your question earlier, Fox 13 picked it up. And it was Fox 13 News Magazine. It aired on Saturday mornings, the same as we had.
How did you do with the rest of your classes in high school? Were you just focused on TV, or?
I was very focused on TV. But by the time that I got to high school, because of television, I was a very good student.
Oh, good.
I knew how to manage my time. I knew how to problem solve on an instant, because that's all production is. It's always putting out fires, always figuring out a way to solve some problem that came up. Yeah. High school, I wound up being an honor roll student and really focused on television production. I knew that's what I wanted to do. I knew that's where I wanted to go. That was UPC TV, Upper Pinellas County Television.
So fast forward now, you get out of high school, you go to USF.
I did.
And what was their program like there back then? Was it was it still film too, or you didn't get into film at all, right?
I've never put my hands on film other than, personal 35 millimeter cameras or something like that. Never developed film. That's something I've never done. So I come into USF already basically able to go into the college. But they have an English diagnostic test, which is a hardcore question, about 200 questions, if I remember correctly, of grammar and spelling and usage and things like that. And wow, it crushed me because I failed the test.
Oh.
So I said, well, what do I need to do? Verbs, nouns, pronouns, direct object,
indirect object, gerund, all these different things. I was like,
I don't know what any of that is.
Me either.
So
I still don't know. So TV helped you basically pass your classes. Really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then while still at USF, I get into the program, and my goal is I need to know how to get myself in front of the camera, right?
Is that still your goal at this point?
And for all intents and purposes, I was a freshman. I'm 18 years old, just out of high school, but I got the 2 years already. So I'm knocking on the door, and they're all telling me, "Whoa, slow down. You got some time." That wasn't going to work for me. I just happened to walk in one day, and I start talking to one of the people that I found out was later one of the teachers of the broadcast news. And I told him about my experience, and he's like, "You went to Countryside?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "I know that program." He said, "Do you want to work in the lab?" It's where the edit bays were.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff he was asking me is, "Do you know how to linear edit?" Yes. "Do you know how to A/B roll edit?" Yes. "Do you know how to on non-linear edit?" No.
Oh. Wait, what year is this now?
96, 97.
Okay, so Media 100 or Avid or something?
It was Media 100
Yeah.
that they were using at USF.
Okay.
So I said, I will work in the lab, which was a paid position, as long as somebody teaches me how to nonlinear edit.
Look at you. Yeah.
So I started teaching my peers before I graduated from USF, even before I was in the program.
You were teaching people in the lab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I got involved with the Student Broadcasting Association, which is where I met Antonia.
Yes. Bull's Vision.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bull Vision. In fact,
Antonia McCutcheon, our executive director.
In fact,
She couldn't be here.
I came in like I usually do, a bull in a china shop.
I get it.
And I
USF
saw,
Bulls.
I saw a disorganized group that had a lot of ambition, that they wanted to do something, and they had some good ideas, but they lacked the structure, they lacked the leadership or whatnot. So I came in and said, I've been doing half-hour television for 5-6 years at this point. So I was like, I can show you how to do this, and I can get you on public access. And they all went, "What's public access?
What's public access?"
So I said, well, it's a program that everybody's got to go through and pass the class, and then they're able to check out equipment and produce a television show that will air on a cable network.
This was TBCN back in the UT days, right?
It was.
Yeah.
It was. And they were over right there on B Street.
Yep. Yeah.
So, yeah. And I kind of came in and taught the peers or whatnot. But one of the things that they lacked was a name. And I was like, what about Bull Vision?
Boom.
And then bang, everybody's like,
Yeah.
yes! So Bull Vision came to fruition.
Wow.
And it was funny because we produced this first program, and we were all so excited about it. We were absolutely juiced.
I know this story.
So we do this magnificent program. We were ready to go. We submit it for air. Everybody is off different directions or whatnot, and I'm at home, and I'm a college kid now, right?
Yeah.
So my family, they've always seen all the different programs and stuff that I've worked on in the past, and they know that I know television production, but this was a college production. Right? So my whole family got us around to watch our television show.
Everybody's making popcorn.
Yeah.
And ordering pizza.
So I think it was supposed to air at 9 o'clock. It doesn't really matter, but there was a set time, right? It's supposed to come on. Everybody's ready. You're like, shh. And then another television program comes on. I'm like, what is it? So the show, to my knowledge, never aired. I have no idea
So
what
there's
happened.
no B-roll in this program.
Nothing.
Nothing.
It was
I looked
just
for
gone.
it. I couldn't find it.
It vaporized.
Wow.
I don't know what happened with their master control, but it was so devastating to have all my family there looking at me like, what happened? And I'm like, I don't know. I get to a point where I've gone through all of my years at USF, and I worked in the lab the entire time. I'm very familiar with the Media 100 at this point in time. I really loved nonlinear editing.
That's what I learned on too initially.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of the premier thing at the time, so that's why everybody was there. Avid was out there, but it was still so god awful expensive.
Yeah.
Nobody could have access to it. I get word that they were hiring a new professor that was coming in, and I heard she's a big deal. Her name was Marie Kirkin Flanagan, Dr. Marie Kirkin Flanagan, and she was the first woman news director for Gannett.
Okay.
So I was like, I need to know this lady. So me being who I am, I walk upstairs, never meeting the person, knocked on her door and said, "Hi, I'm Jeremiah Johnson, just like the movie Never Was a Bullfrog. And she says, what? And I said,
What?
everybody knows me as JJ. She goes, JJ, I have heard about you, but I was starting to get a feeling that I didn't want to be on camera.
Mm.
The inkling was starting to be there. So I said, what are you teaching? And she said EFP, which was electronic field production. And
They don't use that term
I'd always
anymore.
done ENG, electronic news gathering.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I want to take your EFP class and I want you to be hard on me. I want you to absolutely destroy everything that I do, because at that point in time at USF, I didn't feel like I'd really grown any. I just kind of went through the motions of the classes because I already had the skill set that those classes were teaching me. But she had something to offer me that nobody else did. So she said, okay. And
You asked for it.
she rode me. She lit into me. And I will never, ever, ever be able to thank her enough for the opportunities.
What type of things did she rip you apart on? Your editing,
My editing, my shooting, my writing.
yeah.
I mean, she just destroys everything that I've got. And she made me better.
Okay.
Made me so much better. And I was so appreciative of it. And right before I graduate, she comes to me and she says, I want you to teach me how to non-linear edit.
Oh, she didn't know.
She didn't know.
Uh-huh.
So I sat down for about 3 weeks with my professor teaching her how to non-linear edit. She got me my internship with Pinellas County government, right?
Aha!
So I
was
come
gonna
into
ask you
I
when
come
that-
into Pinellas County government, and Mike Ramsey was the station manager for the government channel. And I get in there and I've got my usual attitude. I'm coming in. I know what I know. I'm not going to take no for an answer. I'm going to make this internship work for me. I'm going to come out of here with skill sets. I'm going to come out here with product that will show my skill sets. 3 days into the internship, they said, you really know what you're talking about. You really know what you're doing. We want to hire you.
Boom, you get your first job.
I got my first job,
in the
and
industry.
I haven't even graduated yet. This is
Yeah.
one of the final classes I got to take.
Uh-huh.
And I said, okay, well, it screwed up my internship.
Oh, because, yeah, you needed the grade.
They
and
said
you're
you
getting-
can't get paid and have this
Yeah.
internship. So Dr. Flanagan scurries around and she finds me an internship at Tampa Digital, which was the premier production
yeah.
house in Tampa at the time. Anybody would have killed for this. I came
They
in
made you,
after
they made you make boxes.
I came in after the semester had started, so they were full. They didn't have anybody else room for me. And they said, well, here's what we need you to do. And I went in the back, and for 4 months, I folded boxes. And
VHS tape boxes.
VHS tape boxes. I fought to sit in with the editors to be able to learn and to grow and to adapt and to get a product out that I could
No,
say
they were
that was mine.
intimidated by you.
And boy, were they ever. There was a guy, I can't remember his name, but last name, but his first name was Opie. And he was a young guy. And he was the only one that would let me come into his edit bay and watch and ask questions and try and learn something from him. But all the rest of them, no,
I
they
bet
pushed
they're
me
out of
right
the
out.
business now.
I have no idea.
So now enter Access Pinellas. Now, was the building already there? It was a brand new building, right?
Brand new building.
Yeah.
And
This is like the year 2000, something like that?
yes,
99?
it was 2000, going into 2001. They put me on a 6-month contract, and they taught me how to do master control. And then they said, we also need you to be a trainer. And I said, okay, because I'd been training people for so long
back
already.
Then, how many Access shows were there on the air?
About 80.
Wow. Okay, already. Yeah.
Because most of it was just recycled from where they had come from.
Yeah.
So to back up a little bit, the Time Warner, which was running Roadrunner, no longer wanted to do public access. And then Bright House came in and they bought everything up. And I can't remember exactly when the transition happened, but all of those are kind of around that same time. But they didn't want to do public access anymore. So Pinellas County government
I don't blame them.
took it on. The only thing that they still supplied was the channel.
Yeah. It wasn't a moneymaker. They didn't
It wasn't.
Yeah.
And our signal quality was terrible and on and on. It was so
Three-quarter
bad.
inch tapes back then.
We did have 3/4 inch tapes, but the new studio that they had just built was 2 studios in 1 building. and it was like a $16 million facility. And they had a person from the previous public access, the producers and participants themselves, that they hired as the manager of the public access. And she struggled. She tried her best, and she was in a bad position from the start.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't envy the position that she was in, but she kind of just let me do me.
Yeah.
And I did what I always do.
Yeah. So you were really,
took over.
You were really running the place, but she was just,
Yeah. And it was within the first year or so that she was no longer with the company. So it was just me. I didn't have a manager.
Mm-hmm.
I reported directly to the director of the communications department, and I was responsible for $8 million worth of equipment.
Nice.
And I worked nights and I worked weekends. There was nobody else there. It was just me and the receptionist, Steve Trahey.
Yeah.
And Steve and I built a very powerful bond. And I miss him. I wish he was still with us, but sadly he did pass a few years ago. But it was just him and I, and we did everything we could to make that little program viable.
You still had 80 producers, revolving door, people booking the studio back to back to back, a waiting list, 6 months long.
Oh, the waiting list.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous how many people wanted to take our program, and they were mad, and they were mad at me because it was like somehow my fault that the program wasn't able to take in more people.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm it.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
the only person here.
We're gonna hire some more people.
I was teaching as many classes as the government would allow me to teach.
Yeah.
While still getting all of my responsibilities, my duties done. So after enough time had transpired, and Steve and I going and saying, we need help, they hired on Ron Hebert.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And he became the manager for a number of years.
Yeah.
I'd say 3 or 4 years.
And oddly enough, I knew Ron Hebert when I lived in San Diego, as luck would have it. Just like, Ron, I'm moving to Florida. Nice knowing you. Shook his hand. He's like, "Oh, I'm moving to Florida too. We should keep in touch."
Yeah,
and we did.
And that was one of the things that he said. He's like, "What do you need?" And I said, "Help."
Yeah.
I was like, "We can go as far as my time here is." I'm like, "But if we can have an extra person that can handle some of these other responsibilities or teach a class themselves, then we can grow." Yeah. And he said, "I have an idea in mind." And I didn't even know we put out a notice or anything to hire anybody. And all of a sudden, in comes John Casimiro and says, "Hey, I'm Trackman." And I come from San Diego, and I've been doing public access, and I've been doing, freelance work at the horse tracks and things like that. And he's like, "I've done master control. What do you do?" And I told you, and the rest is history.
And I remember hearing everybody talk about JJ. Ron was talking about JJ, and I actually started when you were on vacation, and I was just, and I finally get to meet JJ, and it's this kid.
And I was a kid.
You were like, what, 25 or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you looked younger.
26 maybe.
Yeah. And I remember the first thing you said, I know I look young, but I've been doing this for, 15 years.
Yeah.
I was like, you've been doing it longer than me,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we had a bond right away, and I was still trying to learn nonlinear editing. I knew a little bit, but man, you put me down and you showed me where all the buttons are, and you showed me all the tools, and I learned it quick because I had to teach the class.
Yeah.
So.
And boy, that was shoestring. I mean, we had nothing, it was just whatever we could kind of come up with. But it was all digital. Yeah. So we moved away from those 3/4 inch tapes. We went to DV cam. So we had a linear system with the STR 80 or something like that controller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Entry in, jog shuttle entry. Yeah.
and have to tell everybody about pre-roll and what it was happening and why it was happening. And
Yep.
All that.
Bob knew how to run it.
Bob Gardesky, Gulf Boulevard. Yeah.
Just before you came in, we were reviewing all the old public access shows, so we'll get to all of those.
We had some good ones.
We had some good ones.
We had some really good ones.
Yeah, and after a while, I wanted to produce something, because we were stuck training most of the time,
Yes.
and facilitating. And I kind of said, look, I want to. These are our stars. I want to interview these people. So I interviewed Bob Golf Boulevard. He
Yeah.
went to Clearwater Beach and
Shepherds.
Shepherds, all the crazy things that went on in Clearwater Beach. And then there was so many different shows.
Yeah. Dub 420.
Dub 420.
Twisted Features.
Yeah.
Pimps of Pinellas.
Pimps of Pinellas.
We had some great
We
shows.
were watching all of them before you came.
We Slim Visions.
Slim Visions.
With
Yep.
Mark Hunter.
Yep.
And then we had the gamut of religious programs.
Yep.
A lot of Scientology programs. We had entertainment programs too. Tropical Reef.
Oh yeah.
Or Tropical Cafe. I'm sorry,
Yep.
Darby. Don't. But it was something along that line. But
Yeah.
it was. They came in. They did an entertainment style show, and then we had a lot of informational style shows as well. So we had a very nice mix, and I think that
Channel 96.
Yep. Access Pinellas. Our personalities worked really well, and that we were able to drive that program in a way that not most public accesses would. And I think we had a more professional product than a lot of the public access across the country.
Well, we had a very good advantage. We had a brand new facility.
We did.
We had a large studio. We had all the best equipment. You know.
Did. And Ron, he let us be.
Yeah.
He did the policy and procedure stuff that I didn't want to deal with.
He made sure we didn't get sued.
Yeah, that's what he did. And for what Ron did, he did it very, very well. And so it was very nice to be able to just come in every day and know what our responsibility was, and if we had a problem, that he had our back.
Yeah.
And that was the case, and it worked beautifully for close to 10 years.
Yeah. Was it that long? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think it was that long.
I guess 6 years.
Yeah.
7 years.
Yeah.
Because it was 2000 when I came in. And 2007, I think, is when they shut it down. So 7 years.
Yeah. So what happened? Unfortunately.
Amendment 1, which was a property tax thing that was being pressed by the governor, Charlie Crist. And when that came down, it just decimated local municipality budgets. And when you have PEG channels, public access, education, and government, and one of those channels is oftentimes critical of you, and they have to make budget decisions, which one do you think is going to go?
Do you think they kind of looked at some of the content and say, "Oh no, this is objectionable. We got to get rid of this," because that was a lot of the hurdles they had here at TBCN.
The only real objectionable program that we had was Project Mayhem, and the rest of them, they weren't like what was going on here.
Yeah.
Project Mayhem was the closest thing to white chocolate.
Yeah. It was
pretty much porn on air.
Yeah.
And the First
Drugs,
Amendment,
a lot of drugs.
Yeah. We pushed it to midnight, but we were able to overcome it and keep it pretty well contained. And I think we didn't even let them air prior to like 2 a.m., but we met all the First Amendment obligations because they were on.
Yeah.
It was just they were on very, very late at night when nobody else was.
I kind of forgot about them, and I was talking to Dan from Twisted Features, and he was kind of talking about how when they first saw his show, he got put on late at night, but it wasn't. I think it was just the first show that was maybe he shocking.
Yeah, well, he liked to push the boundaries. Dan Winkowski.
Yeah.
He did, and he was very talented, very creative. It was very well produced and funny show. But yeah, it was the edgier content. But ultimately, I think he settled around midnight. I don't think
he
that
was on,
there might have been some 10.
I think at first he was on at like 2 a.m. and then plus his first show was very shocking. There were other shows that are worse. Okay, you can be on after midnight, and I think he liked it that way.
Yeah, well, that gave him the freedom to be what he wanted to be.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the risque stuff just didn't develop out of that, and I think a lot of that had to do with the community that we lived in. Pinellas County and Tampa are very different communities.
Yeah, that's true.
So it wouldn't say that those things wouldn't have happened if we were located somewhere else. It was just where we were. The clientele just wasn't that.
Yeah.
So that's how I think we avoided it.
Yeah, true. Well, so It's about 2000. Was it 7 or 8? I want to say 7.
It was in there.
Yeah,
That the
and-
layoffs
and-
all came through.
Yeah, I got kicked to the curb. They made me go work in the utilities department. You got to hang around because you had seniority.
I didn't, but what had happened was I had gone on to try and learn how to be a broadcast engineer under Chuck Sumner,
Oh, okay, yeah.
and I left you guys for a year.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned from Chuck how to rewire that entire building over the time that I had been there. So by the time that was all going down, I was actually slated to be out. They weren't even moving me to another department.
Mhm.
I was just gone.
Yeah.
And Chuck Sumner went to bat for me and said, absolutely
Chuck.
no way. So,
Okay.
and by that time, Ron had left and we had Lisa and Sarah, and she
Mhm.
was really driving towards having an artistic
Yeah.
side to
Yeah.
the channel. And we had a pretty good run there too, but
We
Lisa-
did
Lisa and
more
I-
staff produced stuff under
yeah,
her. Yeah.
Lisa and I had some ideological differences
Mm.
as to what was public access. She wanted the professionalism to come out, which meant we did a lot more. And I
Yeah.
said, I want to teach them to be better and let them
Yeah.
put out a better product.
Yeah.
So there was some friction there. But Lisa had told me when she went through the class with me, she's like, I will not rest until you are in a college classroom. And I said, oh, thank you. So when all this stuff starts shaking out, Lisa was a driving force to get me as a teacher at St. Petersburg College,
That's
the digital
right.
program in Seminole.
That's right.
But by 2009, the budget cuts had just gone too deep, and out I went.
Yeah.
So
So you hung on for another 2 years?
I was able to get to
That's
2009.
good. Yeah.
Everybody along the way teaches me something,
Mm-hmm.
and I hope that along the way I teach them something too.
This has been a lot of information for me to take in.
Yeah.
And we really could have a part 2, I think.
I can talk all day.
I know. But look, we'd love to get you more involved here. I want to thank you for stopping
Always a
by.
good time, John.
Yeah. TBCN is a public access station, but we're so much more than that. We do training for Hillsborough County residents, so check us out on tbcn.org and also on YouTube. And I want to thank Jeremiah Johnson, just like the movie, and no, he never was a bullfrog. Got it.
That's correct.
And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon.
That's our show for today. Hope you have a good day. Bye. Bye-bye.